Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Wednesday, technically. Thursday, if you're listening to this in the morning, like some people do. We're here to talk NFL Week 5. Already Week 5, Derek. Like, we're just flying through. As always, for the NFL Podcast, joined by my main dude here, Noto. What's happening, my friend?
Stevie, what's up, dude? Week 5, kind of crazy. It feels like week 2 or 3. We're just starting to get to know these teams, and we're a quarter of the way through the season. But we got some bye weeks. We got a London game, so going to be a smaller main slate, right?
Yeah, I mean, what is it? 11 games on FanDuel, 10 games on DraftKings. We'll talk about basically both sites. I know sometimes we focus a little bit more on DraftKings. I play more on DraftKings. I feel like you probably play more on DraftKings as well. We missed our draft street days. Man, those were the days. I absolutely love the dynamic pricing of Draft Street. I miss that. I do think Yahoo does a really good job with like dynamic pricing, but nothing is ever going to compare to Draft Street. And I know you really like Draft Street, huh?
Remember when the Jaguars defense were like negative salary?
Yep, I do remember that.
Draft Street, that's where I started, so it'll always be my true love. But then DraftKings bottom, so what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of good people from Draft Street went over to DraftKings, and we saw a lot of differences. So, week 4 in the books. How was your week 4? We didn't talk. We usually talk pre-show, but how was your week 4?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I feel like we got a lot right on the morning grind game. I ended up having a decent week. Once again, I needed Kyler Murray to just do something. Get the touchdown drive on the very first drive, and then basically nothing after that against Washington. So that was kind of tough. But other than that, I mean, Deontay crushed, Nico Collins crushed. Those were 2 of my staples. So ended up being a decent week. How'd you do?
No, Nico was like a main piece for me this past week. So like he did really well. Zach Moss was someone I ended up way overweight on. He did really well. Played a ton of Thomas Jr. from the Jags, and he had a stellar game. It was like one piece on like every team that like I had a lot of really good teams this past weekend, but there was always like one piece. Like my main lineup, I had Deontay Johnson in my main lineup, so I didn't want to put Chubb or Hubbard in there as well. And I went to Najee, and it was like, dude, thousands of dollars swap because I was afraid to play a running back wide receiver together. And it was so hard to like trust, like a full trust of like the Carolina offense. And we'll talk about that when we talk about them here. They're actually the first team we talk about. But had I just like trusted that Andy Dalton was going to play well again and trust that like Hubbard was going to do okay in that role, it would have been, it was thousands of dollars a swing, but it was a good week. I had a good week. It covered my bad week in NASCAR. I got crushed in NASCAR this week. So, sometimes it just happens that way.
I went into the NASCAR chat and it seemed like everybody got crushed.
It's a really weird race. Yeah.
But I was right there with you, Najee. I had him in one of my main lineups, and I had Brees in the other one, and both of them sunk those lineups. So I would have just had them on the same. We could have been good.
I will say I'm very happy that Brees Hall's on the slate because I can't get that guy right. You know what's going to happen? He's going to go to London. He's going to run for like 150 and like 3 touchdowns or something against the Vikings because I've played him every week and he just hasn't done anything. So,
I want to know my favorite stat from week 4.
Your favorite stat from week 4 was
stat, like statistics.
Oh, stat. Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
At one point, Bo Nix had 7 completions for -7 yards.
I did see that.
How did that happen?
They got after him. I think that's the nicest way to put it, right?
So his next 5 went for 67. That's pretty good.
Yeah. The Jets secondary is healthy. Just remember that. They're healthy and they look fantastic, but Bo Nix, it was a rough go for him. But let's move on to week 5. I will post the morning grind contest in just a few minutes, but I'm going to post the RG NFL Listeners League for all the shows right now. So jump in that one. The winner of that contest gets a free month of RotoGrinders Premium. So Yeah, jump in that one. That's a whole month and take advantage of that. I was quickly trying to pull up who won last week, and it's like trying to look through NASCAR and here it is. Okay. Last week's winner was Rory Done, I guess. Lord Reeves, one of the co-hosts of one of the podcasts here. He finished second, but Rory had Jordan Love, Brian Robinson Jr., Bijan. He won with Bijan. Nico, Reed, Kraft, Campbell, Falcons defense. Falcons defense came up huge against the Saints. They had 17 fantasy points because they had 2 defensive touchdowns, defensive randomness. You got to love it. I hate defenses. All right, we got 11 games to get through here. 10 games, like I said, on DraftKings, 11 over there on FanDuel. Posted the link for the Listeners League, but let's get started here. We got Carolina at Chicago, 41.5 total. The Bears, a 3.5 point favorite. We'll start here with Carolina. The Red Rocket, man. Carolina is not the same team they were the first 2 weeks, and I think we're now at the point where we got to trust it a little bit.
Got to trust it a little bit, but by far their toughest matchup. You know, the Raiders and the Bengals at home are one thing, but going on the road against the Bears is going to be another one. Yeah, are you buying into them?
I'm buying into Deontay Johnson. I don't know what I want to do at Hubbard this week. I probably will end up playing a little bit, but I mean, we saw that video come out of Andy Dalton being mic'd and saying, hey, they can't cover you. I'm just going to keep throwing it to you. He has 27 targets in the 2 games with Andy Dalton. Like, I feel like no matter what you do, you know, you have to trust the targets are going to be there at 6,100. I think we're trusting him at least. I don't know about the rest of the offense.
Yep, and with Dalton under center, 43% first read rate. I know you like that stat as well. So definitely going to be on Deontay, just too cheap for the volume for sure. And you know, it could be a game where they're trailing. Chuba Hubbard, 26 and 22 touches the last 2 weeks. Another one of those guys you can probably just bet on volume, not the matchup. So I'll probably have a little bit of both. I don't think it's a week where you stack the 2, play them in the same lineup. But yeah, I think they're both pretty strong options.
I'll mention Leggett as well. 10 targets last week with Thielen out. He was on the field a lot. I think he ran a route 77% of the time. I don't have it up in front of me, but if I remember correctly, it was something around the 77% mark, which is great. You know, that's at 5,100 in a game, like you said. I'm with you. I think they're going to be trailing this game. So, I mean, we're definitely looking at a guy at this price point who's going to be on the field. Yeah, 81%. 81.4%, 24.4% target rate for Leggett at 5,100. Saw some decent air yards, but he's going to be a guy that's definitely going to be a shorter target. And Deontay Johnson had 55.5% of the air yard share last week. So those are the 2 guys I like the most. I don't mind Hubbard. I think we're eventually going to get to the point where Jonathan Brooks is going to play a huge role. I don't think he plays this week from everything I've been reading, but he is returning to practice, so watch that story. They are very high on Jonathan Brooks in Carolina, so we'll see. The Bears side of this game, what do we like here for Chicago?
Yeah, Caleb Williams looked a little last couple of weeks, kind of tore up Indy week 3, decent game last week. We know Carolina. I mean, you can move the ball on Carolina. You can run against them. You can throw against them. I mean, your boy DeAndre Swift, the week you got off him, goes off for 165 yards and a touchdown. So I think it's a pretty good spot for the Bears at home. I don't trust Caleb Williams yet. If they're going to be playing with the lead, I don't think they're going to, let him loose. And with Keenan Allen back, I don't feel great about any of the receivers. So I don't necessarily want to stack them. And then Swift, I don't know. Why are you playing? Are you going back to Swift this week?
I think you have to. Carolina's run defense is pretty bad. You know, they're allowing the 4th most rushing yards. I mean, yeah, I think you have to. He played a lot of the snaps, but the thing that, like, especially on DraftKings, like, he ran a route on 57% of the dropbacks. He had 7 targets. He had a 30% target share last week. Like, did they unlock DeAndre Swift because they finally got him out in space? I mean, he averaged 10 yards a catch. So, I mean, I hope it wasn't a fluke as far as just like facing the Rams, but now like he has another fantastic matchup. I mean, Carolina's a run defense that we love to target. And I think that if he's going to be on the field for 67% and see, 5 targets at this price point, I think is definitely worth playing some DeAndre Swift.
All right, just had to test your loyalty to him. I'll play some for sure.
I feel stupid getting off him last week because it was the Rams, but I mean, the first 3 weeks, it was really hard to see anything coming out of Swift. But I thought it was really interesting too when I was looking back and going over the stats from last week that like Herbert didn't even touch the field. So I think that's a huge bump to Swift. Johnson's going to get in there and get some work a little bit, but it was a huge bump for me to not see Herbert because Herbert is a guy they've used on the goal line. So this terrible offensive line, I think that's where like Swift, you got to get him in space. But I agree with you on the wide receivers and Kmet. Like, what is there to like? I mean, if Cole Kmet doesn't play, maybe we could take some shots on Everett. But I think overall, it's going to be Swift, and that's really it for me on Chicago this week. And I'm probably going to regret it, but I just don't. I mean, you're playing wide receiver bingo, right? Like at the end of the day, there's 3 guys that can all get work.
Yep, and Cole Kmet too.
Yep. I probably will have more interest in Adunze and more if Cole Kmet sits. Like I assume Cole Kmet plays, but if he does sit, we'll see. Buffalo at Houston is where we go next. 47.5 total. Buffalo 1-point favorite in this one. I mean, expected to be a really good football game, but let's talk about it in the DFS space. Man, Josh Allen just looked awful last week. He was on rails. We expected so much more against that pass defense for Baltimore. Shakir got banged up in that game. What are we doing with Buffalo here going into Houston?
Yeah, once Allen took that hit on that play where he got stripped, just didn't look the same the rest of the game. I mean, he's been Jekyll and Hyde this season. He scored 32, 10, 31, and 8 fantasy points so far. But it just seems like every time we get that bad Buffalo game, they come back out and just crush the next week. So I'm back on Josh Allen. He's one of those guys. He could run for 2 touchdowns. He could throw for 300 yards. I kind of like that Keon Coleman was back in the mix. They benched him in week 3 for being late to practice or whatever. And then he was back to, 28% of the team's air yards. I think he played on 68% of the snaps. So back to being their clear, wide receiver 1 on the outside with Shakir, over the middle. And Shakir's questionable. So I got to keep an eye on that. I do like Dalton Kincaid a little bit too. First couple weeks, they were just playing, they were using him as like a behind the line of scrimmage screen set, trying to throw screens to him. It was kind of strange, but he's had some deep targets the last couple weeks. So I'll play some Josh Allen stacks for sure. Going to fade James Cook. Only 15 opportunities per game this season. He's made the most of them. He scored a lot of touchdowns, but I just don't think he can continue that if he's not going to get more work.
I think if you're playing James Cook, it has to be on FanDuel or Yahoo, where it's just so touchdown dependent anyway. But I'm with you on James Cook. I don't like this matchup either. Houston's actually been pretty solid against the run. Their defense has actually been solid overall. They grade out as a pretty, slightly above average defense. So I like Kincaid. I definitely want to play some Josh Allen. He's always a guy that it feels like he comes back, like you said, has these huge bounce back games. So I want some exposure to him, and I feel like this game could be like a shootout type of game. So I want exposure to the wide receivers here and Kincaid. CJ Stroud, I want to play a little bit of him. Some of my best teams last week were CJ Stroud, Nico Collins stacks, Tank Dell back at practice. I don't know if it matters. I feel like this is a spot where Nico Collins is just going to keep eating. At double-digit targets in 3 of the 4 games so far this year. He's the wide receiver 1, and he might be wide receiver 1 in all of football right now, fantasy-wise. I think Jefferson probably still more talented than Nico Collins, but back to Collins, back to Stroud, maybe a little bit of Diggs here going up against his former team. I feel like this is definitely one of those spots where CJ Stroud probably tries to get Stephon Diggs 1 or 2 touchdowns. So I want to play him this week.
Yeah, I played, my biggest bet of the week was Stephon Diggs over 5.5 receptions. And he was just sitting on 5 the entire fourth quarter, didn't get one. So that was a little frustrating. But I don't mind going with the revenge narrative. I think you just chase the usage. Nico Collins, 46% of the team's air yards, first read on 35% of dropbacks. You look at his expected fantasy points per game, it's at 21. So, he's producing the way he should. So it's not like he's having a lot of luck or anything like that. So love Nico. If Mixon's out again, I think they're just going to throw the ball a ton. So I'm kind of hoping Mixon's out. And like you said, I think it's a good game to stack. I think if both passing offenses get going, we're just going to see classic 45, 42 type of game.
You beat Buffalo by the run, right? Like their run defense has struggled. They have a ton of rushing yards, but I don't think this is a spot. If
I
it's
still
Cam
don't believe in
Akers,
their
like,
pass defense either.
yeah, I don't either. They really, I mean,
They played Tua for a quarter, the Jags.
yep.
Ravens didn't even try to throw the ball. And
No, they
then,
didn't have to. Derrick
yeah.
Henry ran all over them. Like he ran through the whole state of Baltimore last week. So it was wild to watch Derrick Henry. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like they really haven't been tested. Tua tested them a little bit in that first quarter. Kyler Murray, I mean, they didn't really have to throw a ton in that game either. So we'll see how it all kind of plays out. But anything else from this game? I think that it kind of covers it. This is definitely one of the games that I've circled as a full-on game stack. I think that both quarterbacks in play, ton of pass catchers, a lot of potential in this game.
Yeah, it's weird. I love both quarterbacks. I just, other than Nico, I feel a little iffy about the receivers, but I'll build stacks anyway.
Cleveland at Washington, 45 total in this game. Washington, Commanders, a 3-point favorite. We'll start with the Cleveland side here. Anything against this terrible Washington defense?
So we were talking about guys that, let us down last week. Amari Cooper had nothing going, dropped like a 25-yard pass that got picked, hit him right in the chest. Then he had a 65-yard touchdown, called back on a late hold. It looked a little bogus to me. So, that was a little frustrating. Look, Deshaun Watson, not a good quarterback at this stage of his career. He's had at least 12 fantasy points in 4 straight games. He's running the ball a little bit. Washington might be the worst pass defense in the NFL. I still like Amari Cooper. The expected fantasy points per game is just still incredibly high. I think I'm going to go back. I probably won't play Watson, but I do like Cooper. And then Jerome Ford. So last 2 weeks, 81% of the snaps. He's handled 30 touches to 7 for Deontay Foreman. So it seems like, he's the cleared RB1. So I'll definitely play some Ford this week.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with you on Ford. I actually have Watson in my player pool right now as far as quarterbacks, just because he's so incredibly cheap, and
I know
they should be playing catch up. So, and I want to play Cooper and I want to play some Judy. So I might play a little bit of Watson this week. I think that Jerry Judy, he has at least 6 targets in every game. He has double-digit fantasy points in 3 of 4, and he only has 1 touchdown. So if he can continue this type of share, I mean, I think that you have to kind of like this spot for him. As much as it pains me to say it, like assuming that like Njoku is still out with the ankle, I think we could play Cooper. I think we could play Judy. I think we could play Ford. All run backs too. I mean, obviously the Cleveland defense is really good, but Jane Daniels doesn't care how good a defense is. The dude is just balling out. What are your thoughts here on Washington?
Yeah, Jade Daniels, I think he's number 1 in the NFL and EPA per play among quarterbacks. So impressive. I mean, playing well for a rookie, but he's playing great for, a veteran. I mean, he's just been awesome so far. He's got that rushing upside too. I will note the Browns are 4th in fantasy points allowed at quarterback, so probably going to be his toughest matchup yet, but it's at home. And, I mean, the Browns just might be a disaster all year. So I do like Jane Daniels. Terry McLaurin continues to get great usage, 26% target share, 47% air yard share, finally getting a bunch of deep looks as well. So I'll play some of those 2 for sure. Then the backfield, we just got to wait. It looks like Austin Eckler is going to be back, but now Brian Robinson isn't practicing. So, I mean, if Eckler's the guy, I'll play some of him for sure.
Yeah, Robinson's been awesome this year. I mean, if we look at his stat lines, he's had a really strong start to the season, scored at least a touchdown in 3 of 4 games, can get some pass work out of the backfield. So, I mean, if he's good to go, the injury news that I'm waiting on here is like Noah Brown, because if Noah Brown ended up sitting in this game, like we have some cheap under 4K wide receivers that, might play enough in this game where if Terry McLaurin's kind of getting shut down. So I think I'd bump up like Ertz definitely if Brown ends up sitting in this game. And then I might even like throw a few shots on McCaffrey and like double stacks of Daniels and just kind of hope I get that like 4 or 5 catch game at 3,700. So yeah, very interested in this game. If you asked me before week 1 if I'd been interested in this game, I would have laughed at you. But man, this is a really interesting game.
I know a game that we won't have much interest in. It's coming up
this next one. Yeah, Miami at New England, 35.5. That's not a typo. That's what the total is. New England a 1-point favorite. Anything here on the Dolphins side?
Skylar Thompson wasn't the answer. Tim Boyle wasn't the answer. I don't think Tyler Huntley's the answer either. Mike McDaniel is all of a sudden on the hot seat. This is a full fade for me. I mean, even Achane, like we can't trust him. You know, he's losing carries to Jalen Wright. So full fade for me on the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a Dolphins fan. I'll keep repping my Dolphins gear. It's a rough go. I tweeted out today, and I don't think people realize like I was dead serious about this, but I tweeted out today saying like bring Jameis to Miami. Miami needs somebody that's just going to chuck the football because we have so much speed. Running Achane up the middle is not the answer. You got to get this guy out in space. You got to get Tyreek some shots down the field. Huntley is not the answer. I mean, I played him a little bit on that like smaller slate just because of like his rushing upside, and he had a rushing touchdown, still terrible. But Dolphins just lost a key piece on defense with Phillips out for the season with his ACL, so it's a rough go. I mean, I'll play some Dolphins defense because first of all, I have no interest in anybody for New England either. But I think both of these defenses are where I'll get exposure to this game. It pains me to say, like, not to take shots on Achane or Tyreek. Like, Tyreek under 8K is just, like, so tempting. Maybe I'll sprinkle a little bit of Tyreek in just because one long touchdown and you're off to the races. But I like the defenses here. Any interest in New England?
Yeah, I love their defense. I do think Miami's defense is going to be a lot worse without Phillips in there. So,
yep.
I don't know, but I would love to play Ramondre Stevenson here if he didn't fumble 5 times a week. So now it sounds like they're going to get Antonio Gibson more work. Yep. I wish he was cheaper, or I wish this was a single game slate because I would definitely take some shots on Gibson. Miami's allowed the 4th most fantasy points to running backs. You can pair him up with the defense, but I don't know how many touches we can really expect from him.
I mean, if the news comes out that Gibson is indeed going to start, do we take some shots on Gibson at 51? I think we have to, right? Like if we're going to be playing the New England defense. So,
yeah.
I mean, Stevenson's probably the better back, but man, I can't do it, man. Can't do it. You guys must be running 150 lines with all these guys mentioned. Listen, we are the Morning Grind. We are a First Look podcast. I've been doing this for 8.5 years. We just give out who we like in each of these games. We narrow down our player pool. I know I narrow it down typically on Saturday night and play 3 to 5 main lineups and like a 20-inch max build sometimes. So
I think he's talking about the chat.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
McNichols and some other guys.
Yeah. Listen, I thought he was coming at me. I'm ready. Let's go. I'm ready. Let's go.
He might. He might.
Hey, listen, bring it on. I'll defend us. I know you're like a 5 lineup guy, right? Like that's what you do most weeks.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right, we got Baltimore at Cincinnati, 50.5 total in this game. Baltimore, 3-point favorite. Derrick Henry is absolutely loving having an offensive line. Another incredible game from him, 199 yards. He had that long 87-yard run, but even if you take that 87-yard run away, he was still a guy that was just absolutely crushing. What are we doing with Baltimore here?
Yeah, it's funny. I had Derrick Henry's rushing prop. The over is my free pick on Twitter, and took one play, so that was pretty easy. Yeah, he's been awesome. He struggled a little bit week 1, and ever since he's been on a tear. 350 yards and 2 touchdowns the last 2 games combined. Bengals 28th in EPA against the run this season. You look at the Ravens, I mean, Todd Monken, second year as offensive coordinator, you kind of think they're going to air it out more, but they are dead last in pass rate above expectation. They just aren't throwing the ball. They don't need to. So that takes away pretty much all the wideouts for me. I'm fine playing Lamar, even though he's not throwing the ball a lot, still averaging 24 fantasy points per game. He's running a bunch. I think Derrick Henry's just opening up lanes for him to run as well. So I'll play some Lamar and I'll play some Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and I don't think you could touch like the tight end situation at all unless you're like one of them are out or you kind of project Baltimore to be down by a lot. I think Baltimore is a really easy team to play. You play some Lamar, you play Derrick Henry, and if you feel like you have to, you play some Zay Flowers. But I think I'm off the Zay Flowers train for right now, unless we start getting some matchups. But Derrick Henry, my main piece here from Baltimore. I'm just going to keep playing him. On the other side of this game, it was good to see like T. Higgins get much more involved in his second week back against Carolina. Baltimore, they're a pass funnel. We talk about this all the time. I want to play some Chase. I want to play some Higgins. I don't know if I get to Burrow this week just because I think there's a lot of really good quarterback plays. And I think I can get a lot of his production through Chase and Higgins.
Yeah, we're on the same page. I was going to say, can we play Higgins? I mean, the underlying usage is awesome. First read rate, 31%. Baltimore, like you mentioned, pass funnel, and 6,800 on FanDuel. That's a really good price point. 6K on DraftKings, pretty good too. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I like Higgins quite a bit, especially if everyone's going to be playing Chase. Do you like either running back? I mean, they both looked great last week. I just worry about which one do you play.
Yeah, I can't do it. I feel like I lucked out last week with Zach Moss getting that pass touchdown. Because I mean, Brown getting 2 inside the 10 carries for touchdowns was so incredibly tilting for anybody that played Zach Moss. So Chase Brown looks like the better running back. So I don't know if it eventually becomes like Chase Brown, but it's so hard to trust either one of these guys. And Baltimore's so good against the running back situation. I think if I was going to play one of them, it'd be Chase Brown because I think he has more pass catching upside, and I think that's how you would potentially beat Baltimore with a running back is a long catch. But I mean, like you said, the underlying numbers for T. Higgins looked incredible last week. 59% of the air yard share, and one of my favorite first stats is first read, 36.8% last week. Looks like T. Higgins is back, and yeah, I mean they ran a lot of 3 wide receiver sets for what it's worth. So I think that you just kind of trust this, and Gesicki is all but done in that situation. I think if you're going to play a tight end, it'd be Eric All.
Yeah.
Anything else from the Cincinnati side?
No, pretty much just T. Higgins for me.
I'm interested. I will say I'm very interested to see what Zach Moss's rushing prop comes out at this week. I haven't checked to see if it was out. I would be very interested if it's in the 50s at any point in the 50s at his under rushing prop this week. Baltimore's so good against the run. And I think Baltimore is going to put some points up in this game and Cincinnati's going to be trailing. So if it is, I'm pulling it up really quick. It is 45.5. Yeah, I mean, that's probably right where I would project it. I would like it if it was over 50, but I might even take the under 45.5 to be honest. I think this is what Baltimore is allowing 57.8 rushing yards per game through the first 4. It's just incredible.
And they could get up too.
Yeah, I think they will. I like Baltimore's offense way more. All right, Colts and Jags. Your Jags. The Colts 2.5-point favorite in this 46.5 total. A lot of injury news in this game. This one is really tough to break down on a Wednesday night because we're waiting on Richardson news. We're waiting on Taylor news. Huge pieces here. I will say, let's talk Colts. Let's talk Richardson playing. Let's talk Richardson sitting. It makes a huge difference for me.
Yeah, so Richardson playing, I wouldn't love the Colts that much because I would worry he would re-aggravate the injury. I think it's a hip injury. And
I don't know, oblique. It was both, yeah.
Oblique, yeah. And then they bring it back in a few plays later and run a design quarterback run.
Yeah, what are we doing?
What are they doing? So I would worry about that. And, I mean, he's been hurt a bunch anyway, even without coming into a game with an injury. So, I mean, if it's Richardson, I probably won't play a lot of the Colts. But, man, if it's Flacco, give me all the Pittman this week. He had over 100 yards. Flacco's like the better Minshew. He's just going to lock in and throw it to Pittman. And then if Taylor's in, I think he's fine, especially if Flacco's under center. I think he'll get more work in the passing game. If he's out and Trey Sermon starts, I can go there too. So, yeah, love the Colts, especially if Flacco is under center.
Yeah, Sermon's a really good in between the numbers runner from what I was reading. So I'd have interest in him if Taylor sits at his price. So I will say I want Flacco to play. I want Richardson to take a week off because I would play Flacco. I'd play some Flacco at 5,500. I'd double stack him with Pittman and Downs. Downs 9 targets last week, and most of that came with Flacco at quarterback. So
can you imagine Flacco on the Dolphins?
Dude, that was my original thought. Listen, you knew as a Miami GM, you knew the risk with concussions for Tua. They should have had a better backup quarterback, but we won't get into that. Yeah, I like the Colts. I think this is a great spot for the Colts, and you kind of know where all the production's going to go. Pierce has kind of been away. Mitchell's not getting as open anymore. It's Downs, it's Pittman, and it's way more boosted for me if Flacco is the quarterback, which is crazy. Other side of this game, we got Jacksonville. I mean, Trevor Lawrence just can't get it going. He's missing some easy passes, but I'm going to keep playing my dude, Brian Thomas Jr. Absolutely love this guy. I talked about him a lot on the podcast last week. He was like our question of like who failed that you want to go back to, or in like I'm going to keep playing this guy. They're drawing up red zone plays for him, and dude is incredibly talented.
Yeah, love him this week. I think it's a good spot for the Jaguars as a whole. I mean, they played a lot better last week. It's a division game. They typically play the Colts tough. I remember a couple years ago, the Colts, all they needed to do was beat the Jaguars, who were like the worst team in the league in week 17 at that time to get in the playoffs, and the Jags pulled off the upset. So I think they play well here. Don't want to play the running backs. Think Bigsby coming off of a career game. I think he's earned more touches. ETN just hasn't looked great this season. So I'll play some Brian Thomas, and then I'll keep an eye on Evan Ingram. I think he was limited today back in practice. If he's out, I'll go back to Christian Kirk too, because his target share over the middle goes way up when Ingram's out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with the running back situation. Both the running backs dealing with shoulder injuries too. If they were out, Dearness Johnson's 4,800. I don't trust that at all. I think they'd throw more. So as much as I hate to say it, I like Trevor Lawrence this week. And like it's just painful. Like it made my lips hurt when it came out just now. But you have to, right? Yeah, like you have to at this point. The Colts are allowing the 6th most passing yards, the 2nd most rushing yards, and we don't trust the running situation at all. So they're just not.
I don't know what's wrong with him. His completion percentage is like in the low 50s. He hasn't he's top 200 yards once this season. I don't know. Thumbs off.
It's a situation where like if you can't do it here, you're probably just not going to do it. Yeah. I wanted to bet his like passing prop. It came out at 234.5. I was hoping it'd come in at like 210 or something because of how bad he's been playing. But yeah, I mean, I think if there was ever a spot, this is the spot.
I think Flacco starting actually helps Lawrence too.
Yeah, I agree. I don't disagree with that. All right, moving on. Arizona at San Francisco. 49.5 total in this game. The 49ers a 7.5 point favorite. Move on to these 4 o'clock games. What do we like here for Arizona?
I already know this is going to be the Kyler Murray week because I'm not going to play him. He's been my guy the last 2 weeks, and he hasn't done anything in great matchups. Now he's going to go face the number 1 pass TFF graded defense. He's going to crush, and I'm not going to play him. So any listeners out there, just build one Kyler Murray tournament team because I won't have any of them. I do like Marvin Harrison, though. I just think it's the spot where they're going to be trailing, and he's just going to be chucking it up to Harrison. So I think we can get some garbage time production there. For the most part, don't really love the Cardinals.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the problem I feel like with Harrison now is like you're paying up for like an elite wide receiver. And like he is now priced in like the Nico Collins range, the Malik Neighbors range, the DK Metcalf range, and like it's just I don't know. The price is really the sticker shock is still there, but you know the upside is there for him. Like if you look at the underlying numbers, it's fantastic. So I get it. Like you said, I mean, I don't love Kyler, but I'll probably build at least one Kyler Murray team just because we know what he's capable of. I actually have a lot more interest in Brock Purdy in this game. I think that he's a really interesting tournament play this week. This is a really good spot against this Arizona defense. And I feel like this is a incredible spot for Jordan Mason. So Brock Purdy might potentially go a little underlooked here. Overlooked?
Yeah, overlooked.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tired. It happens.
Under the radar, overlooked. I think it's a great spot for him. Cardinals bottom 6 in EPA against the pass, bottom 6 in EPA against the run. I think the Niners are just going to put up a bunch of points. And I mean, it could be a spot like, is this an afternoon game? It's got to be, right?
Yep.
This is probably going to be a spot where I play Brock Purdy with Mason in my afternoon contest and just try to get all the Niners touchdowns because I think they're going to get 5 or 6 of them here. I don't really know who to pair them up with. Debo and Ayuk are both, capable of big games, but yeah, I still like Mason. At least 21 touches in every game. He's had 5 targets the last 2 weeks, so getting a little more involved in the passing game, which I like to see.
I think Debo would be my favorite. especially if Kittle's out. If Kittle's out, I think Jennings is actually in play as well. Like Jawan Jennings still had 6 targets last week, and they were throwing the ball deep to him. Like they were taking shots on it with Jennings. So, I mean, I feel like they should have let Ayuk walk. I mean, he looks like he has stone hands right now. I don't know his drop stats. I don't have him in front of me, but man, I watched him drop one this weekend that was very, very catchable. So yeah, I mean, for me on the San Francisco side, I like Mason and the Purdy call. I like these guys a lot. This is a spot where Jordan Mason, you just kind of play him, and you're kind of just expecting him to run for 100 yards plus and a touchdown. So yeah, I mean, this is Arizona run defense is definitely a run defense you have circled, and Mason's production and the fact that like he is pretty much running every single running back attempt outside of like Debo just makes you have to like him a lot in this spot. All right, we got Vegas and Denver, 36 total in this game. Denver, a 2.5-point favorite. News came out today. Devontae Adams wants to get traded. Doesn't expect to play with a hamstring. There was a funny joke going around on Twitter. I think it was Underdog like tweeted it out that he took a one-way flight to New York. What are we doing with the Raiders offense? Anything here? The running game looks terrible. The offensive line looks terrible. Like, is there anything here?
Do the Jets really need Devontae Adams? I don't really understand that, other than he used to play with Rodgers.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. If I was New York, I wouldn't try. I mean, anybody would try to get Devontae Adams, but
I mean, if I'm the Chiefs, I'm getting Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I'm doing everything I can, and everything I can. But yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I don't love the spot for the Raiders. Denver's a tough place to play. Denver Broncos are top 7 in EPA against running and the pass. But I mean, Trey Tucker's still cheap, 4,100 on DraftKings. Came through with a touchdown. They're getting him unique ways to give him the ball too, which is always nice. Brock Bowers, maybe the best tight end in football, one of them for sure. So I'll play a little bit of both of them. And then on the Broncos side, can we get Bo Nix to throw like 3 good balls to Cortland Sutton? Just a couple. I mean, the air yards, the underlying usage is just all there. He actually caught a long touchdown against the Jets last week. And we saw, Andy Dalton and Deontay Johnson just tear up this Raiders defense. I think I have to play some Sutton.
I'm with you on Sutton, by the way. I don't love the running back situation in Denver. I never really loved the running back situation in Denver. I want to attack the Raiders defense somewhere. And I think like Sutton's cheap enough now where I just have to play him. Like the numbers and the expected fantasy points and everything are telling me that I have to play him. So I'm with you. I like nothing else on Denver. I really don't love this game. I like the Trey Tucker call. I'll probably end up playing a little bit of both of these defenses too. I think both these defenses are in play. At what point is this Raiders team just going, man, this Minshew, like we got to get off this guy. He won last week, so I guess you can't say too much. I would take
O'Connell as the answer, though.
I think I'd take Minshew in Miami. Give me Minshew Mania in Miami. I'll take anything in Miami right now.
Yeah, that'd be
all fun. Right. We got Giants and Seahawks, 43.5 total in this game. Seattle, a 6-point favorite. We're waiting on the Malik Neighbors news. He did not practice Wednesday. He is in concussion protocol. We want to see him get back on the field probably by like Friday for him to play this weekend. We'll start with the Giants. Neighbors matters a lot, right? He is the production for this offense. He's the guy. If he were out, we could potentially play Robinson, who is coming off a 14-target game. But, I don't trust anything outside of those two guys.
Yeah, I'd actually play some Darius Slayton if Malik Neighbors is out, just because he's had a good rapport with Daniel Jones over the years. He'd be the outside guy. Wan'Dale's role's not going to change that much. He might get a little higher target share, but he's just that low ADOT guy that they try to give to with gadget plays and stuff. So I would play some Slayton at 3,900, but I'm hoping Neighbors plays and we can just go right back to the well. He's been awesome. The usage is incredible. And, I want no part of the running backs. I think it could be an ugly game for the Giants here going cross country.
Yeah, it has a lot of potential to be an ugly football game, but I think if Neighbors plays, I'm interested. They should be trailing too, so I want the pass catchers here. On the Seahawks side, I think DK Metcalf is a top 3 wide receiver this week. You look at the matchups and what some of these outside wide receivers have been able to do against the Giants. you look at how Geno's feeding this guy the ball this year. I think this is a 2-touchdown upside spot for DK Metcalf this week.
Yeah, so new offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb, they said they were going to open it up. Seahawks #1 in pass rate above expectation this year. We were kind of expecting them to be top 5, top 10 maybe, but #1. They're just throwing the ball all over, and that takes into account game script and all that too. So they love to throw the ball. I like Geno, love the Metcalf call. JSN just continues to be heavily involved, so I'll play some JSN too. And then Kenneth Walker, was that the best move you've ever seen? Not getting touched or not going down on the ground?
Yeah,
double 2 flips. That was crazy.
He looked great too. He averaged 6.7 yards per carry against Detroit, and the Detroit defense is no joke. So I think
that'd have been 2 of the best highlights that we're going to see all year from a running back, because you had Kenneth Walker and then you had David Montgomery just running over Witherspoon and
he did.
Just turning like a 3-yard play into like a 50-yard catch. That was awesome too.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons that DK might not score 2 touchdowns this week is Kenneth Walker keeps doing his thing. They used a little bit of Charbonnet, but when Walker is healthy, they're going to play him. I mean, so we have to trust this situation for Walker, and we got to play him against this Giants defense. All right, last game for the DraftKings slate. We got Green Bay at LA taking on the Rams, 48 total. Green Bay a 3-point favorite. Jordan Love, he returned. He threw 389 yards. He wasn't fully 100%, you could tell. But man, he was chucking 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I mean, it's a night and day thing when he's in there. Jaden Reed, 7 catches, touchdown, 30 fantasy points. Gotta like this spot here going up against the Rams, and Green Bay just seems like a team you want to have a lot of exposure to.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good spot for the passing game. I don't know who I prefer to stack him with. I mean, Dontavian Wicks has had a much bigger role since Watson's been out. Wicks, Doubs, and Reed all have a target share between 16 and 18%, which I don't love to see. But some of that is with Love out, so take that with a grain of salt. But I do like Love, and you can pair him up with any of those guys. And then Josh Jacobs, I mean, bottom 5 run defense. I think it's a pretty good spot for him too at 6,400.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite running back plays this week. I also I prefer Reed. I think Reed just has more ceiling. He's just so talented. You look at the 2 games that Jordan Love played this year, 138 and 139 yards, touchdowns in each of those games, over 30 DraftKings points in each of those games. I feel like Reed's the guy, but like you said, it could be any of these guys. If Musgrove is out, I don't hate Tucker Kraft. I mean, 9 targets last week, really involved. It's just, you kind of hope the Rams keep up. I mean, you hope they keep up.
Vegas thinks they will. So
I mean, it is a road game. It is a cross country game, kind of, for Green Bay. I guess it's not fully cross country, but I mean, I like Jordan Love. I like the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to play a lot of Packers this week. They're going to be one of my top targets as far as teams. Running it back is where it gets interesting. I mean, what are we thinking about Witt, man? 4,600, 8 targets last week. His route share was way up. His first read rate was way up. He seems like he's not going anywhere with Cooper Kupp and Puka out, Robinson banged up. What are we doing with the Rams this week?
Yeah, I had to do a double take when it came to their team total. 22.5. I just didn't think that they could score that many points against anybody. But, Winnington looked pretty good. I don't mind playing some of him. Packers have allowed the 8th most fantasy points to wide receivers. I don't mind going back to Kyren Williams. He's had 23 and 26 touches the last 2 weeks with Cooper and Puka out. Again, it's just one of those games where you don't think the defenses are going to stop either offense. So as long as they can protect Stafford, I think we could get a shootout here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, Green Bay is a team that really stinks at pressuring the quarterback. PFF has them as 25th as far as pressuring the quarterback. So you kind of hope this is one of those spots where Stafford has time. You have that upside of if Stafford has time, then Tutu has that big playability, touchdown upside type of play. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to play Rams. They're all cheap. They're all very cheap outside of Williams. So I mean, Parkinson is another guy that I like this week. We finally saw him become way more involved last week as far as his pass catching and stuff. He had a 20% target share, and he was the first read 25% of the time. So I like the upside here for the Rams. I like the upside for the Packers. And this is another one of those games, Derek, that I just kind of have circled. And I'm like, hey, very game stackable game where you don't even have to like play the quarterbacks. I mean, I like Jordan Love, but this is one of those games that I feel like you could build a game stack of another game you like, and then just build out the rest of your lineup with the stack from this game, and then play whatever defense fits. I like this game. All right, Sunday Night Football, FanDuel slate. This is an awful one. 43 total. It's Dallas and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh a 2.5-point favorite. We'll definitely just specifically talk FanDuel pricing. What do we like here on the Dallas side?
I don't like much, to be honest. You can always play CeeDee Lamb, but I don't really trust the running backs. It's a really tough matchup on the road. I just don't think we're going to see that many points. Their team total is lower than the Rams. I mean, that tells you a lot,
So I have a play I actually really like this week.
Okay.
All right.
I got nothing.
Well, I like Jake Ferguson. He's really expensive. Is it Porter? Porter going to lock down CD as much as he can. He's just a shutdown corner. Somebody's going to have to catch the ball.
Doesn't CD? He's mostly a slot guy, though.
Doesn't matter. This guy will follow him into the slot.
Really?
I mean, Porter. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if I remember reading correctly, listen, anybody that has ESPN Plus, Mike Clay each week does a fantastic job. We've worked with Mike Clay for way too long now. We've known him for a long time. Does a fantastic job of like breaking down situations, and he basically said that like this is a spot you definitely want to note. CD against Porter, so I'm noting it. Brandon Cooks is out. I want to play a little bit of Tolbert at 5,100, but I think Ferguson. I think this is a 6 to 10 target Ferguson game. So he was the guy that I wrote down that I really wanted to play, and I say really want to play. I have interest in Ferguson, so. I like Tolbert too for large field tournaments. He's really cheap. He can catch that long touchdown. They like to throw the deep ball to him. Also, kind of some slight interest in Pittsburgh's defense because I don't love Dallas here. What do you like here for Pittsburgh?
Yeah, again, not much. This isn't a game that I love. Fields finally had the big game, and like we said, like he needed to get down for him to turn into old Fields where he's just running the ball, chucking it. And so maybe the Cowboys get out to a lead, but I don't think you'd really need to play him. I don't love anybody really.
So Lamb's in the slot 55% time. That's where he'll definitely eat, but 45% of the time when he's on the outside, that means he'll see Porter 45% of the time. If Dallas is smart, CeeDee Lamb's out of the slot like 80% of the time in this game. So
sound easy saying he loves Lupke. Because McCarthy loves his fullbacks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if Warren and Patterson said, I'll probably go back to a little bit of Najee because I do have some interest in the Pittsburgh defense, but
buyer's remorse over here.
What's that?
Buyer's remorse over here.
Yeah, I mean, we got to have a short memory. Justin Fields kind of got to throw the ball last week, which sucked because I did not play any Justin Fields. And he did well. And I mean, if you're going to play Fields or if you're going to trust that like Fields is going to throw the ball, maybe you could take some shots on Pickens at 6K. I don't love it. Fairmuth is a touchdown dependent tight end. So like if you want to take shots on him, it's not like the Dallas defense is good. They really struggle against the run. So I feel like if the Steelers get any kind of lead in this game, they're just going to hand the ball off a lot. Yep. All right. Nothing else, right? That's it.
That's it.
Let's play the morning grind game, and then we will get out of here. If you missed it earlier, I'll post it again. We have a RotoGrinders free Listeners League for all the shows. The winner of this one each week gets a month of RotoGrinders Premium. Just post the link in chat. It will be in the description as well. So make sure if you haven't joined that one, join because you get a chance to win RG Premium for a month. Why not? Take advantage of it. We got some people over here that know what they're doing. Been around for a little while. Quarterback for 300 plus passing yards. Who do you got?
Jordan Love. I think it's a great spot for the Packers.
Yeah, I mean the only reason that I worry a little bit about Jordan Love not throwing for 300 is because Jacobs has a good game, but you never know. I struggle with this question this week, to be honest with you. I feel like there's a lot of good quarterback plays, but I don't know how many are going to like go for 300 plus. I'm going to go to Stroud against Buffalo. Buffalo's defense still, we really don't know what to expect. We've seen them play well, but we really haven't seen them challenge. CJ Stroud is going to challenge them. So I like Stroud. Low owned running back for a touchdown. Again, we record on Wednesday night. As of right now, projected ownership will definitely change. But who do you got for a low owned touchdown as running back?
I want to go Jerome Ford, like I talked about. 81% of the snaps last 2 weeks. Nice matchup against the Commanders. I think it's a good spot for Ford.
Yeah, I will say, like, I was a little like projected ownership shocked by like DeAndre Swift's ownership this week. Gosh, I
21 right now.
Yeah, it pains me. That one pains me because I do want to play him. Listen, I want to say Chase Brown with this answer this week. I'm going to say Chase Brown. I don't know if it will be a rushing touchdown though. That's what, the question is, which running back do we think is going to score a touchdown? Chase Brown, I think it's going to be a pass catch touchdown though. Quarterback, wide receiver stack for a touchdown. Who you got?
You're going to like this one. Trevor Lawrence to Brian Thomas.
Yeah, I am going to like that. I wrote that one down too. Thank you. Let's see. I'll just go, give me Geno to DK. I really like DK Metcalf this week. So give me DK Metcalf and Geno to score a touchdown. I did for what it's worth though. I did write down Lawrence and Thomas. I like that one. I'm going to play Lawrence this week. I'm going to regret it instantly. I'm going to be watching this game. I'm going to I live in Florida, so like it's always on the TV, and I typically will have NFL Network up on my computer. And anyway, gonna pain me. Wide receiver for 8+ targets.
Ain't broke, don't fix it. Deontay Johnson.
Why? Yeah, I mean, I wrote up his prop this week already. I'm just gonna keep doing it. Why wouldn't we? This one's not low owned or anything, but I think that Nico Collins is just a guy that's going to keep getting massive amount of targets. He's kind of moved into that like role of play him every week. So give me Nico. Tight end for a touchdown. Who do you got for a touchdown this week?
All right, this might be the Raiders' only touchdown, but I'm going to go Brock Bowers.
The dude is definitely legit. I mean, we can all give him that. I'm going to go Parkinson. I really like this game, and I keep playing this guy. I'm waiting for the big touchdown type of game to happen, and I really like what I saw last week and how the Rams are getting Parkinson involved. So give me Parkinson to score a touchdown for LA this week. Defense wins championships is what they used to say. 10+ points. Who do you got?
This defense is going to be watching the championship from their couch, but I still like them this week. That's the Patriots at home against the Dolphins.
Shocking. Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to play them? That's for sure. Listen, I think this question is really interesting this week, but I'm just going to kind of go with the defense that I'll probably end up playing a ton of, and that is Denver. They're 2,900. They have actually looked pretty decent. They're getting sacks. They're getting interceptions. I mean, 3 straight weeks where they've allowed, 15 or less points, which is great for fantasy points wise. So give me the Denver Broncos defense against that Raiders awful offensive line. I feel like this is a spot Denver's defense gets 5+, sacks, if not more. All right, going to the betting portion of the show, against spread or money line. What do you got for us this week?
Yeah, you like the Broncos defense. I like them to cover the 2.5 at home. Feels a little fishy, to be honest. I don't think the Raiders put up much of a fight without Devontae, but I'm still playing them anyway. Give me the Broncos. Yeah,
I like Denver. I like that call a lot. I think that it's definitely a spot you can definitely take advantage of. This one, I guess you could call it a homer pick, but give me Miami +1. I feel like even Huntley can play better, and it's more of I'm betting on Brissett to just continue to be awful. He's atrocious, so I'm going to bet on that. Give me Dolphins +1 going into New England and beating New England.
Never bet on your team.
Yeah, well, I already did. So
when they're the Dolphins or Jaguars, never been on your team.
Yeah, well, it happens to the best of us. Over under bet. You got an over under bet for us this week?
Josh Allen's going to ball. CJ Stroud's going to ball. Buffalo, Houston over 47.5.
Didn't that line just seem a little low?
Yeah.
I was looking at that earlier this week, and I like when it opened up, and I thought that line seemed a little low. I'm actually going to go to the game that you started with and take the under on this Denver Raiders game. A lot of interest in the Denver's defense. I think that they kind of just dominate this game. And I don't think either offense is like explosive enough where like we're really worried about 3 or 4 touchdowns scored in the first half. So give me Denver, LA, or Las Vegas under 36 as my over-under bet this week. Any player prop or pick 'em play you like?
So I don't watch a lot of college football, but I saw some stuff rolling around on Twitter today. Some guy in Boise State's like minus 155 to score 2.5 touchdowns, which is pretty wild. He's minus 3,500 to score 1 touchdown. So I'm going to go with a multi-touchdown bet here. I'm going to go Derrick Henry over 1.5 touchdowns.
Oh, I like it. I wrote up his rushing prop on Scores and Odds last night, so I thought 84.5 was a really high number, and I hate betting rushing props because of game scripts and stuff. But how do you not take this guy right now? This offensive line is so good, and like Derrick Henry is just a beast. I mean, why does Lamar need to run the ball anymore? I mean, just give it to Derrick Henry. So I don't hate that one. I'm going to go running back for my prop too, and I'm going to go to DeAndre Swift over 48.5 rushing yards. Painful betting this each week, but I'm going to keep doing it. Finally got going the week that I didn't bet this last week. So, yeah, I mean, I like this a lot. 66.7%, average 5.8 yards per carry last week, which is fantastic. And Carolina has allowed 148.8 rushing yards per game, 4th most in the NFL. Like DeAndre Swift over 48.5. Derek, any final thoughts?
Week 5, let's get it. And yeah, I'm going to get a cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger? I had Chipotle for dinner. It was all right.
Good.
I like
good
Chipotle.
choice.
All right. Morning grind, 3-pick parlay. I had the Dolphins in this one, but I don't want to do the Dolphins now. So I'm trying to find a replacement. I have your Buffalo Houston over 47.5 in this, and I have Denver money line in this one, and I was trying to find a third one. I think I'm just going to take the Green Bay Packers money line. This is a 3-pick parlay plus 440 over there on the Hard Rock. It's Denver to win. It's over 47.5. Buffalo, Houston, and Green Bay to win. Take 2 money lines here, plus 440, and hopefully we can get this one. And that's it. Week 5 in the books. We're back tomorrow, potentially talking baseball. It sounds like there's not going to be much baseball to talk about. So probably take tomorrow or Friday off. So we'll be back Monday talking some baseball, some Monday Night Football, and hope everyone has a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you then.